Hey Bible lovers, I'm Tim Nichols, and I'm here to bring you your Nichols Worth. And today from TAN Bibles, also known as St. Benedict Press, we have a brand new Douay Rheims large print Bible. And I would say this is probably my favorite Douay Rheims so far. Now, a little bit of background on the Douay Rheims Bible. It is translated from the Latin Vulgate, so it is going to have some oddities. For example, Moses had horns in this edition rather than glory on his head. Also, in Genesis 3:15-16, in the Protoevangelion, it's going to speak in the feminine sense. Instead of he shall crush the serpent's head, it says she shall crush his head instead of he, and it seems to be referencing Mary instead of Christ, because the Catholics hold a very high view of Mary. But when it comes to a large print, thin-ish line Douay Rheims, this really hits a lot of marks. First of all, it's got three pretty nice ribbons, and they are double-sided satin. These are, they look a little bit bigger than 1/8, but they're definitely not 3/8. So I'm going to say that they're going to be 1/8, 3 gold, really pretty ribbons. I like the cover. This is a fake leather cover, but it's very ornate in its design, and I love the old English look, really paying homage to a very early English translation. And then we get the spine. It's going to have Holy Bible, nice little cross, Douay Rheims version, and of course it's going to acknowledge the publisher here on the bottom. It does have 5 raised hubs. It's going to have really nice gold and black head and tail bands. Catholics always do a very nice job on the gilding. I don't know what process they use, but it's very good. When we get to the liner, check this out. This is a vinyl liner, so this is probably about the best Douay Rheims outside of the Baronius Press. The Baronius Press makes a very nice one too. But the difference in this one is going to be the layout and the footprint size. This is a full-size Bible. It's going to be in that 9-ish by 6.5-ish inch range, where the Baronius Press is going to have either that super big one that's almost family Bible size, or it's going to have that personal size or that little compact. So this one really meets those needs for that full-size Bible. And then once we get into the Bible itself, of course you're going to have your presentation pages and going to have some artwork and nice stuff in that. But here's what I really want you to see. Check out this layout. Now this does not want to lay flat, but if you give it a little bit of work, it will. This is going to be the one, of course, with the Challoner updates. But this is quite nice. And I'm not exactly sure what size this font is, and I'm also not exactly sure what the paper thickness is. But this paper feels nice and thick. I'm going to say, if I were guessing, I'm going to give this at least 36 GSM. And the paper here is quite opaque. That ghosting is almost non-existent. Just really beautifully laid out. And I am thinking this appears to be somewhere between a 10 and 11 point font. Of course, it's going to have Challoner's notes on the bottom. You're going to have your text here. And this is in a verse by verse layout. And your verses are going to be on the edge right here. And they are not bold, but they're big enough to where you can see them. So this will be a really nice preaching Bible as well. But this is lovely. This is probably by far my favorite Douay Rheims layout that I've ever seen. Just really like the way they handle this. Of course, this is going to have the extended canon, also known as the Deuterocanon for Protestants, the Apocrypha. That's going to be included, and it's going to be dispersed throughout the Old Testament, just like Judith is right here. And one thing that makes this one unique is that when you get to the New Testament, there's not a whole lot of Catholic Bibles that have this, but the words of Christ are going to be in red. Now, this is definitely not the best red letter I've seen, but it's also not the worst red letter I've seen. I would put it kind of in the middle. It's a decent red letter, but when you consider the paper opacity, and I can't tell if this is line matched or not. Yeah, I think that's, check it out, I think that's really close to line matched. And this is a nice dark print too. This almost reminds me of like 2K Denmark level of darkness, and got a little dividing line here. I like how they handle the references, where they put them in this little section with the line above and below, and then we have Challoner's notes. Really excellent. So no, this isn't the original Douay Rheims. This was updated later with notes by Challoner, and this has also kind of been updated to more resemble the King James, although there are some issues with this translation for Protestants. For example, the Protoevangelion, where it says, she shall crush his head. Also, when Jesus says, repent for the kingdom of heaven is here, it says, do penance for the kingdom of heaven is here. So there are some things that do seem to reflect some Catholic bias, but remember, the textual source for this is the Latin Vulgate. It is not the Greek and Hebrew. This is done in the 400s by Jerome, so that's what this is going to be translated off of. But once you get past the Gospels and past the red letters, of course you're going back into your normal standard layout. Then when you get to the back, after you get to the book of Revelation, called the Apocalypse in here, there is going to be a little bit of a historical index to the Old and New Testament, which I think is pretty cool. And then you're going to have your Feast of the Saints, some different calendar events. Then it's going to have some beloved prayers, and there's probably going to be some prayers in here I would disagree with as a Protestant, especially prayers to St. Michael the Archangel and different things like that. But when you get Catholic material, that's something you're going to have to expect. And then we have the succession of popes, which is kind of interesting if you're interested in that history, starting with St. Peter and then moving into the Pope of today. Let's see how current this thing is. So moving up to Pope Benedict. So this one has Pope Benedict as still the Pope. He is actually no longer the Pope, so this one is a little bit outdated. And then moving into some more artwork and a couple of maps. This thing is nice. This is probably the nicest Douay Rheims in existence from a readership and layout standpoint. The only thing I would appeal to the publisher to do is try to find a way to go ahead and get that print darker. So this was printed and bound in India, and sometimes Indian printers do tend to be a little inconsistent with their red letters. They may consider trying some other printers to see if they can get those red letters dark, because they're onto something here. This is a special copy of the Douay Rheims Bible. I highly recommend that you get yourself a copy if this is one you intend to read or reference. This is a great referencing tool. God bless you. Keep calm. Jesus' Son. This is your Nicholsworth.